quorum of the board will be participating in person, by video conference or telephone call in accordance with the provisions of Section 551.125 or 551.127 of the Texas Government Code that have not been suspended by order of the governor. Members of the public may view this meeting by accessing the meeting through the following YouTube address. An electronic copy is available, and public comments related to this meeting will be handled as follows. You may call in your comment to 210-945-5404 no later than 15 minutes prior to the meeting start, and your comment will be read at the meeting. The subjects to be discussed or considered upon which any formal action may be taken are listed below. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown on this meeting notice. Unless removed from the consent agenda, items identified within the consent agenda will be acted on at this time. As the Judson Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals and policies and oversee the management of the district. We are responsible for approving budgets, contracts, personal appointments, and to listen to reports from the superintendent. We are not here to make administrative or management decisions pertaining to the daily operations of the district. This is the responsibility of the superintendent. In compliance with the State Government Code on open meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. This is a meeting in the public, not a meeting of the public. And as our guests, you are welcome to observe and listen. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded, and they will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it is legally mandated that these proceedings are recorded accurately, I may have to ask for order periodically should I notice that disruptions are interfering with our recording capabilities. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll. Ms. King?
Shatanya King, present.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, present.
Ms. Paris?
Lynette Perez, present.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, present.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, present.
Mr. Diaz?
Rafael Diaz, present.
And I am Renee Pichelle, present. To my left is the superintendent, Dr. Jeanette Ball.
Welcome.
At this time, would you please stand for the invocation and the pledges?
Heavenly Father, today I ask you specifically for healing for all the individuals that are suffering from cancer. Tonight, I raise a special prayer for Casey Cruz, who is fighting hard a battle with cancer. Give all cancer fighters comfort when they are in pain. Lay your healing hand on all and remove every cancer cell so that they be healed. We also ask you, Heavenly Father, to be with us tonight as we make decisions for the best interest of our community and of our students and staff. In your name we pray.
Amen. Let's pledge to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to the Texas flag. I honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you very much. At this time, we'd like to acknowledge our visitors and citizens to be heard. Naomi Maston on student handbook and requirements of cheer team manager. Ms. Maston?
Yes, ma'am.
You may take the podium.
If you come to the podium to speak into the microphone, please.
My question for the school board is, well, the first question regarding the student handbook is, during the registration portion, when I was trying to register my children, my two girls, to go to Judson Middle School, I was being asked to sign for a student handbook that I was told 3 days later, and after 4 phone calls to the school district, that the student handbook wasn't going to be available till mid to late July. My question is, how can I sign for something that I haven't read? I mean, quite frankly, I don't sign a contract with a car unless I send it to my attorney. So I'd like to know what my children are being held to and what I'm being held to.
Thank you. And your next question?
Is regarding what the requirements are for a cheerleader manager. I need to know what the requirements are for that person to hold the position of manager. Is there any medical training that is going to be necessary for this person? What kind of first aid response are they supposed to have? And how is this being conducted, and how are they being chosen for that?
Thank you for both of your questions. And Ms. Maston, you will have answers to your question that will come from the superintendent.
Thank
and
you.
She'll probably get in touch with you within the next day or so.
I'd appreciate it. I've had 4 calls to the principal at Judson Middle School and haven't received a response.
Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Maston.
Thank you.
That's all for citizens to be heard.
Yes, ma'am.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be moving item 4, nominations for the Judson ISD Board leadership, to number 9, and it will become 9C when we return from closed session. That would be item 4. We are moving it to number 9, and it will be 9C. Let us move on to number 5, consideration of consent items. And as I read, if there are any items, board, that you need to pull, please let me know. Item 5A, consider and take action regarding approving board minutes from the regular meeting held on May 14th, 2020. Item B, consider and take action regarding approving monthly financial information as of April 30th, 2020. C, consider and take action regarding approving expenditures equal to or greater than $50,000. D, consider and take action regarding approving the ranking of submittals for request for competitive sealed proposal 2020 Pichelle Elementary modernizations and improvements. E, consider and take action regarding approving the ranking of engineering firms for services related to the material testing phase of the construction at Pichelle Elementary. F, consider and take action regarding approving the ranking of the engineering firms for services related to the testing and balancing phase of the construction at Park Village Elementary School. G, consider and take action regarding approving waiver of November 27th due date for the annual financial report required by TEA due to the COVID-19 event. H, consider and take action regarding approving waiver of penalty and interest on property tax payments. I, consider and take action regarding approving the second reading of DEA Local Compensation and Benefits Compensation Plan. J, consider and take action regarding approving secondary student fees and CTE-related student fees for the 2020-2021 school year. K, consider and take action regarding approving an attendance waiver due to COVID-19, March 2020 through May 2020. L, consider and take action regarding approving waivers related to curriculum and instruction, including the timeline for accelerated instruction, modified schedule, state assessment testing days, alternate 7th grade reading and instrument due to COVID-19, required early notice of students at risk for failures due to COVID-19, and staff development minutes. M, consider and take action regarding approving the student code of conduct for the 2020-2021 school year. N, consider and take action regarding approving changing the paid lunch price increase. O, consider and take action regarding approving granting of an easement and declaration of restrictions for certain real estate located at 5441 Seguin Road, San Antonio, Texas, 78219, also known as Kirby Middle School, to be used for an outdoor advertising structure. P, P, consider and take action regarding approving an advertising agreement between the district and Clear Channel Outdoor LLC. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent items, letters A through P.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say, well, what we'll need to do is have a roll call because we don't have our instruments. So we'll do a roll call. Ms. King, yea or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Eaton, yea or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Perez, yea or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Canoyer, yea or nay?
Yay.
Ms. Rodriguez, yea or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Diaz, yea or nay? Yay. Renee Pichelle, yea or nay? It passes 100%, unanimously, excuse me. Let us move on to item 6, discussion and consideration of action items. 6A, consider and take possible action regarding approving the proposed compensation plan for 2020-2021 fiscal year. Dr. Ball.
So we have been discussing the compensation plan that we oh, thank you, sorry. I apologize, I didn't have my mic on. We have been discussing the compensation plan that we have for the district, and one of the things that we wanted to remind everybody about is that the budget that we are currently looking at right now puts us in a difficult situation. So what we would like to propose for the compensation plan is that it stays the same as last year. One of the things that we would like to do is that if everything works out great, that we do what we did last year in December, and then provide something for our staff in December, contingent to our enrollment staying up, contingent to funding not changing. We are waiting on Tuesday. Tuesday is a big day for us because that is when it is said that the commissioner is going to give us instructions as to how school districts will be funded next year. We're hoping that we will have the opportunity to be funded for virtual experiences, so we could then do a hybrid of something virtually and then something face-to-face, and giving the opportunity for parents to have different choices as to what fits best for them. But going back to this, right now our compensation plan would not be changing for the following year. And of course, I'm open to any questions or discussion that the board would like to have.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
So would this mean, would people still get, like, on the teacher salary scale, their year increase, or are we completely freezing, like you're at where you're at?
Right. I don't want to misquote, but I'm thinking they're going to stay exactly where they're at.
Okay. Okay, so I think the only thing that raises for me is folks coming in as brand new teachers then being at the same pay scale as somebody with a year more experience. Is that what's going to happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I understand we don't have a lot of options there, because if we do it for one, then we do it for everybody. But I think that would be something I'd want to look to correct when we
As soon as
are
we
in a
can.
position to do so.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And hopefully in December, then we could bring some information as to our budget situation at that time and specifically address something like that. That, great point.
Let me just go down the road and see if, Ms. King, do you have any comments that you'd like to make, Ms. Eaton?
Well, it's just that, you know, we had kind of hit on that. You know, we don't know what the state is going to do, and everything that they're saying so far is leaning toward some significant cuts. So whatever plan they come up
You
with.
support
Yes,
the compensation
definitely.
plan staying the way it is? Ms. Perez?
And I would assume that part of your goal is to not have to be in a situation where we're dealing with any kind of reduction in force, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so this helps shores us up somewhat
Right.
until we have more information, correct?
Yes. So what we have continued to do is, my promise or my pledge has always been that this building and the building where I'm at takes the brunt of it. And we continue to do that, though, again, it doesn't make everybody happy, but there have been some people here that have been asked to go back to a campus, and that is what we will continue to do, because we want to be able to not, as much as possible, not touch, the campus. So we are continuing to do creative, different things here, because I do not ever want to go through a RIF. I do not want to go through a RIF. People have asked that, and so thank you for bringing that up. What I can guarantee right now is that everybody has a job. And I think that in the times that we're at right now, there's a lot of people that don't have jobs. So people are happy that they do have a job, whether you're at transportation, a custodian, cafeteria, whatever your position might be, you will have employment next year.
Thank you, Dr. Ball.
Ms. Canoyer?
Thank you. I do hope that all our employees understand that our timeline for approving a budget happens the end of June, and that timeline doesn't meet up with the timeline where we're given instructions on how we're going to reopen. So at this point, we still don't know what concerns and what rules are going to be put down on us as to how we have to structure our schools, what are any added expenses that might be involved in transportation, classroom size. We just don't know that yet. But I do hope that every employee also understands the commitment of this board, and I think I speak for all of us, that employee pay is a priority for us. Employee satisfaction is important to us, and that we do not want to go with no pay raise. We just can't do it right this moment. We have to wait for more guidelines so that, as Dr. Ball promised, that we don't have to have any kind of reduction in force. That would, I was here when we had one, and it was really, really difficult. So I do hope all our employees are understanding of that, and I hope that our community members understand too that we're not just sitting on our hands and hoarding money. We want to be sure that we use it thoughtfully, and that whatever requirements are laid on us, that we're able to cover.
In the beginning, when we first started the budget process, we had great hopes and expectations of what we were going to do. Everything from addressing stipends, addressing salaries. There was great plans that we had. Never in January and December when we first started this did we expect for COVID to hit us the way it has. And not just our district, but the whole economy system that has been hard. And, we can go into the price of a barrel, of oil and gas and all that stuff that has hit our economy.
Ms. Rodriguez, do you want to add anything?
I just had one more thought, because we will also be approving the personnel report, and we are having teachers come in from different districts at various experience levels. And so I think that something that I would want to make sure we look at is that if you're coming in, you're also kind of coming in at that tier where you would have been frozen had you already been in this district. Because it's not fair to give somebody coming out of district the advantage of that extra year of experience when we're not giving that to our current employees.
Absolutely.
Mr. Diaz?
I mean, everybody said everything. I am working with a ton of different programs across the country that are furloughing folks. It's really tough to launch programs.
Can you put your mic on, Mike?
It's on.
Oh, they can't hear you, so maybe just get a little closer.
The Batman voice.
Yes.
No, so I've been working with a lot of programs across the country that are furloughing folks that are, having to make really tough choices between people and tech. So whatever we can do to do right by people in the short term, and then catch up on that in the long term, that's what I would want to see.
I agree with everyone's statements. We're all very thankful to have what we have, and I think it really hit me rather hard on Monday when I went to the food drive, and to actually see face to face how many families drove through there, having to get groceries. And it just makes you feel, it was a humbling experience for me because it makes you realize that you've got to be grateful for what you have. And so our district is going to go through a lot of changes, just like other districts are. But at least we're able to continue to pay our employees, and they know that they're going to have a job. And as what Ms. Canoyer said, that when we get into the position that we are able to give the incentives that we know that they deserve,
Right.
we'll do that.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
will do that. So,
If I could bring up one more thing.
yes, ma'am.
That in part of our compensation plan has the incentives, I should not say incentives, excuse me, the stipends for coaches. That part has also been a huge unknown, you know. When people ask me, I truly don't know, I answer with my hopes and dreams that we're going to have sports because that's a vital part, because that involves kids in something. That's why it's important. It's important to me because kids feel a part of something. So in there, you'll notice there's a little part on there that does say the board may adjust the compensation reflected in this plan retroactively due to the unknown funding levels at the time this plan was initially adopted. So though we want to always do this in a positive way, that if our funding comes out strong and our enrollment is strong and everything, we want to increase. But if there's the case that we have no UIL sports, we will have to come back to the board and ask about those UIL stipends specifically, because I also don't want to give away public funds. So that is something that right now we're going based on, we're going to have UIL sports, but that is still a big unknown. So just wanted to point that out to everybody.
Okay. Are there any other discussions? Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, we kind of were not discussing, but we mentioned the other day about, you know, that is the thing that's separating us from the other schools. So definitely, I hope they do what they need to do, because we have now, I don't know if everybody is aware of it, but we have 2 new schools opening up. We have one opening on Foster Road across from the Dollar Tree. And then, you know, we all know about the one that's opening over in Converse. That is humongous. But those, the sports are one of the, and other activities are one of the big things that separate us from a lot of those schools and keeps some of our students too, you know.
Right.
So.
And-
I
And
hope
our
that-
CTE programs.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, yes, definitely, definitely. Okay.
All right, so is there a motion for this item?
I move to approve the 2020-2021 compensation plan as presented.
Is there a second? This motion has been moved and seconded, and we'll take a roll call vote. Ms. King?
Ms. King, yay.
Ms. Eaton?
Ms. Eaton, yes.
Ms. Perez?
Ms. Perez, yay.
Ms. Canoyer?
Ms. Canoyer, yay.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Ms. Rodriguez, yay.
Mr. Diaz?
Yes.
And Renee Pichelle, yes. Motion passes unanimously. Item 6B we'll take care of in closed session. We will move on now to item 7, discussion items report. Superintendent report, Dr. Ball.
Yes, everybody got the construction update report. They're starting several projects. Olympia is well underway. Park Village is well underway. I really think Veterans is looking really nice too. So that, of course, has been well underway, but you can definitely now see the theater area there right in the front. So that's coming along very well. There's been a few buildings that have not had air conditioning or water this week, so people have been working from home. But that's expected, nothing bad, just construction things that need to be done. So they're plugging along with that right away.
I was able to go over to Kitty Hawk, as I said on Monday, to see the improvements that are going on. And Mr. Olivares took us on a little tour of the new building. So we got a chance to see the special ed building. It's very, very nice. So it's coming right along.
Yep.
All right.
And we are still, I want to share that, gosh, maybe the May board meeting or April board meeting, the board decided to name Kitty Hawk. I have not forgotten about the ceremony. It's just, I want to do the ceremony when I can actually invite people
Okay.
and have something nice. So I'm just going to wait a little bit longer. I'd rather not do a virtual ceremony, but if it comes to that, okay. But I'd rather do something nice and have something for him there and invite him and everything.
Absolutely. Item B, budget update, Dr. Ball?
Yes, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Atkins.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam President, board members. So this probably will be our last update before we get to the adoption of the budget. It's still, we're getting new information from the state almost daily, and so we're adjusting as we go along. So today we'll give you an update on where we are with the current year budget, and then we'll talk about the timeline for the approval of the budget. Then we'll look at the actual budget and then some of the concerns that we have and the unknowns we have going into this coming year. The first thing I want to talk about is the stimulus dollars. I know I believe the Express News or somebody published all the money that we're getting, all the school districts are getting, and we're getting a little over $4 million, and it's based on our Title I's pro rata share throughout the state. We have to take approximately 5% of that and make that available to our private nonprofit schools in the district. And it's not, we don't send them money, we send them services or goods. And so that's not going to be reimbursed by the state. Because what the state has decided to do is they are going to reduce our foundation school funding by the $4,072,241. But we're only going to get to use about $3.8 million in our foundation program. And they're doing that in hopes of not having to cut funding in the 2021 school year. So that's the hope. So there's no new money in the ESSER grant. Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. Do you mind?
No, ma'am. Anytime.
So that article that I read this morning
Yes,
about all those districts and what they were getting,
yes, ma'am.
that's this ESSER grant?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
That's the amount that was put out there.
okay. And we're really not getting 4 million
Right. We're actually going to be $200,000 short.
short? Okay, because of
In our
what we have
foundation
to use it
school.
for. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So not only are we not getting that on top of what the state gives us, I want this to be clear to everybody who's listening. Not only are we not getting that on top of, to cover any extra monies we have to expend because of the COVID
Because of COVID,
crisis,
right.
we're not even going to get our full amount that we would have gotten previously, because they're going to take that 5%.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. I was so excited when I read that we were going to have this money. I thought, okay, this is really going to be helpful, because this is going to really allow us to do some of the things that we're going to have to do
Correct.
Right.
in the fall. So instead, not only are they not giving us extra money, they're really taking,
Correct.
what, 200,000-ish
200,000.
away?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just wanted that to be clear to everybody.
Right.
That's what your state people are doing. This is not required by the federal government, is it?
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
a state
No,
decision?
No, ma'am. Well, the supplanting
know who to blame.
the supplanting of the foundation school is a state decision.
Okay,
The private nonprofit is
Yeah.
a requirement of the federal government in all our title
I don't have a
programs.
problem with that at all. I just
So-
want to know who's making us not get it on top of. Okay,
That's a state government, yes.
all
ma'am.
right.
We do have a little bit of extra money coming out of the CARES, the CFR grant, and it provides up to $250 per EcoDis student with a cap of $50,000. And so we can use that to reimburse up to 75% of pandemic-related expenditures that were not currently in our budget, 1920 budget, on March 13th, 2020.
And do you have an approximate dollar amount for that?
We should qualify for the full 50,000.
Okay.
Clarifying question.
Yes, ma'am.
Both of these are about the 1920 budget, our past budget.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is like, how are we finishing out the year and the funding?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Now, there's another little grant that's smaller. It's called the SERVE grant. We don't have any information on that yet. And so when we get information, we'll let you know about that. And then the governor has a pot of money, about $300 million, and he has not said what he's going to do with that. And that's pretty much the stimulus funding for the state of Texas.
Related to this, have you ever attempted to quantify what our pandemic-related expenditures have been?
Great segue.
Oh,
Thank you. So this is what we have spent on top of our normal spending. So when we look at the payroll, this is the premium pay. So we've been making our regular payroll plus $500,000 on the local side. We've spent about $1.8 million in non-payroll, supplies, technology. On food service, they've spent about $140,000 on payroll and about $16,000 in supplies because they are getting reimbursed for the meals that they're serving. Mm-hmm. But there were some meals that we served that we were not reimbursed for, and so they can't pay for those supplies. So that's kind of where we sit. That was probably a week ago is where we sat with those current expenditures.
And again, non-payroll means supplies, goods, products that we've had
Yes,
to purchase.
We purchased quite a few Chromebooks to replace the
Yes,
ones we put
absolutely.
out. And so that's a lot of the local fund non-payroll. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. A lot of them, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah.
So as we look at where we're at, again, we expect it to be in a deficit budget due to the COVID and some of the reduction in other expenditures on the local side. We will end up probably putting about $2 million into fund balance. Right now, we have estimating about $208 million. Actually, our budget is $208 million in revenue. We should get pretty close to that. And then on the expenditure side, we're at $210,000. And again, we're probably going to be closer in the 206, 204 range when we get through there. Child nutrition is not looking quite as good because remember they operate on a reimbursement basis, but we're still making all our payroll. So currently they've brought in $11.9 million of what they thought was going to be a $15.9 million budget on the revenue side. They've expended $13 million. So they were going to end up probably around $1.6 million in the hole this year. And they have about a $2.6 million fund balance. So they will be able to cover it, but it's going to be not much of a fund balance left. And when they can't cover it, then general fund has to cover it. Just so everybody knows how that works. Debt service, we're going to be fine. We'll put a little bit of money, maybe $100,000 into fund balance this year. So what are the next steps? We did publish in the paper today our notice for the June 25th meeting, and we're doing our budget update tonight. We'll have a special board meeting on June 25th where we'll have a hearing on the budget and the proposed tax rate, but we're not going to approve the tax rate that night because TEA is going to calculate the tax rate the 1st of August. July 30th, we should receive our certified values from Bexar County Appraisal, and usually we get 95%. They don't know if they're going to get there this year. They have to get to 90. August 1st, we have to provide the certified information to TEA. They have promised to return our Tier 1 tax rates by August 5th. And then August 20th, we will adopt the 2020 tax rate. So the assumptions are still pretty much the same as we've talked before. I don't think any of them have changed, pretty much. So when we start looking at what next year will look like, and so the first column is what our estimated, where we're going to estimate to end up 1920, and where 2021 will be. So that middle column, we're looking at about $204 million in revenue, and about $208 million in expenditures. So for next year, we're looking at almost a $4 million deficit. And if you see on the left-hand side, we'll be right at about $2 million putting into fund balance this year. So we'll start the 2021 school year with about $64 million in fund balance. And if everything comes to pass, I hope I'm wrong and this is a much better revenue side, but we'll be around $60 million in fund balance. Child nutrition, they've been working hard. Again, they will probably get about $13 million in revenue this year, about $15 million expenditures this year. Right about $2 million is going to come out of their fund balance. Next year, they've really worked hard to say they're going to have a balanced budget because, as you can see, their fund balance after they took $2 million out is going to leave them about $700,000, and they rely on that for cash flow as well as for shortages in the program. Debt service, this did change a little bit. And the big thing is because we're using a 95% tax collection rate. And so when you look at this, the 2021, it looks like we're going to use about $2.5 million in fund balance. We have a healthy fund balance, but we're going to look at those calculations again after we get our certified values. And that's why we may repost and do a hearing on the tax rate again in August if those numbers change. So these are the cost savings that are included in the budget that we're talking about. And the first one I think Dr. Ball's already talked about. It's increased since the last time we looked at it because we have moved some more positions, and I think it's going to increase a little more than the stipends and then the allotment reductions at both the campus and the department. So right now we're at about $2 million in savings for that budget. So what are some of the concerns? TEA has not announced, and I think Dr. Ball said hopefully Tuesday we'll get some information about are they going to make any adjustments. I doubt they're going to fund on historical trends like they did this year. Basically what they did this year is they looked at our 4-6 weeks of attendance, looked at the historical increase in ADA or decrease in ADA of the last 2 6 weeks in the 18-19 school year, and applied that ratio to the average of our 4-6 weeks this year, and that's what our ADA is. And that's how they came up with that. And I doubt they're going to do that next year. We don't know if they're going to fund distance instruction, and that's the biggie that everybody can't really design a model until we know. Through May, the state has lost $1.8 billion behind in their revenue projections. In May alone, year over year, sales tax was down 13%. So again, they are getting ready for cuts. Again, talking about the funding for remote learners, that's the big one. What will it cost, I believe Ms. Knoyer talked about this, to safely open campuses? Now, we did get notice Tuesday. The state went out and bought a bunch of masks, gloves, and hand sanitizer, and they are shipping it to the schools based upon their enrollment. And so we will be getting some of those. So we're going to get about 200,000 disposable masks. So about a 10-day supply. Just saying. But we are having a hard time getting anything, so we are grateful that they did do that. What will transportation look like? That's a biggie. If we can't get the kiddos to school, they're not going to count for us. What will food service look like? And then, like Dr. Ball said, what will extracurricular look like in the 2021 school year? Yes, ma'am.
We don't, Dr. Ball, can you give us at least a sketchy picture, a sketchy vision to answer these questions?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is wanting to know what the learning, would look like. So kind of to address that one first, if they come out and Tuesday they announce that we will get funded for remote learning, we want to be able to provide both options. Have teachers that really feel comfortable in doing remote learning, have them do the remote learning. Of course, it would look very different than what we did those April and May months. We're talking about truly teaching remotely. So being able to do that. Another thing would be is, there's so many questions. It depends on, are they going to stick to the attendance guidelines that we currently have? That we take attendance at a certain time. The child must be there to count for us. So we're looking for a lot of flexibility, so then we could be flexible with parents and say, you know what, you don't want to put your child on the bus because you don't feel safe. That's okay. You can bring them in at 9:30. And I'm just using these all as examples. But hopefully that the state will give us that much flexibility and still fund us, so then we could then in turn provide that flexibility to our parents and to our community. We want to open our buildings because we also know that there's a lot of parents that aren't interested in doing the remote learning for various reasons. Some of them have to go to work themselves, so they can't do that. Then I also worry about our special needs students. They need to come back to their routine. It has been difficult for them to be away from school because a lot of them are very routine oriented, so they need to be able to have that. So we want to be able to provide that for them. We want to continue to feed our students, so we want to be able to provide them the breakfast and the lunch. So we want to be able to continue to do that. And on the extracurricular, we want to be able to do that also. So I don't know if that kind of addresses some of the questions. Or?
Yes. So I was just wondering if, as a staff, and I know that you're still waiting on the state, but as a staff, do you talk about alternatives like feeding in the classroom rather than going to do you talk about
Yes.
specifics like that?
So today we had a principals meeting this morning, and that it was the conversation that the 3 different groups, elementary, middle, and high school, are giving suggestions and having those dialogues within themselves and then proposing some of those things. It's very difficult. I'll give you an example. When I sent out one of my letters, I had some parents that reached out to me and they said, if you make my child wear a mask every day, all day, I absolutely will not send my child back. Then there was the other parents that contacted me and said, I do not want my child to wear the mask. So there's the 2 camps, the ones that want them to wear it every day, all day, and then the ones that don't want them to wear it at all. So it is going to be very difficult because you'll make some happy and some not happy. So we're looking at everything from, another example that came up today was recess. How are we going to handle recess? How will we make sure that recess is staggered enough so custodians get out there in time to clean? How will we stagger lunches enough so our cafeterias aren't completely full? How will we make sure that we give teachers enough time to still have their 30 minutes, but at the same time take their class to the restroom so they can all wash their hands before they go and have lunch? So there's a lot of things that we are looking at. We even put on the sheet, are we going to maybe for a few months only do virtual field trips instead, because we don't know, the places that they be going to and the precautions they're going to be taking. So there's a lot of things that we're looking at. We've thrown out a lot of ideas. And again, for all the people that are listening, these are just ideas. Do we take everybody's temperature? There's some camps that say, yes, we absolutely take everybody's temperature. No, we don't take everybody's temperature. So right now, those are all the ideas and suggestions that we're talking about and working on developing the best plans.
Are nurses included in that conversation? Because, the clinics at every school, I'm sure that the clinics are going to have to go through a new routine. So are nurses in on that conversation?
So nurses are in the conversation with Ursula, and Ursula sits on the committee that she represents the nurses.
That's all I have. Ms. Eaton?
I still say, if at all possible, when it's time for school to start, that the students at least start the beginning of school at the campuses, because they're going into new grades with new teachers, and the teachers need at least a couple of weeks to assess where they are. I mean, we had this big gap, and so they need to be able to assess them in order to get a game plan going for just to do the virtual again, see where they're at, where they need to, be brought up to or whatever, and then go forward. Even if we consider, the first semester, I think, 6 weeks in-house, and then take that break until the end of January after flu season. But at least the teachers will have worked with them and know who they're working with, who they're dealing with, and where they're at, and what they need.
Right. So two things that I can say for sure is that the state has put out there lots of different scenarios for calendars. At this time, for the 2020-21 school year, Judson ISD is not planning on changing the calendar. We don't feel that that's fair for lots of reasons. It doesn't give people that work ample time to, what do you do with your child for 6 weeks, in between those times? Our children need to be with us. We believe that it's a great environment for our children to be here. We want them here. So the calendar will stay the same. Next year, the 2020-21, we'll look at the various options that the state has provided. We'll look at districts that have implemented, whether it's year-round, intercessional type things. Maybe we'll consider that. We'll gather input. We'll meet with our staff. We have a calendar committee. We'll do our voting as we've always done. And then we'll possibly, but we do plan to open up our doors on the day that our calendar says. We'll open up our doors with great safety precautions and measures. And then if the state allows us to have some flexibility for funding, then we'll provide other different options that are going to be virtual.
Go right ahead, Ms. Rodriguez.
So I completely understand that there are more questions than answers right now, especially when it comes to the state and the guidance that they're giving. And it makes me very nervous that we're going to arrive on June 25th and need to approve a budget, and all of this guidance is coming out afterwards, And so a couple of things. One, on our athletic program, so how much revenue comes in from ticket sales, and can we feasibly even run an athletic program if they say oh, we can't have spectators or something like that? Financially, can we do that? I don't know if you can answer these questions right now, so these are just questions I'm putting out into the ether. That I would like to know before approving a budget on the 25th. I think, too, this is probably something you can answer right now. So, yes, the state is behind, $1.8 billion behind on their revenue projections, but with the legislature not in session, can they approve changes in school funding? Or is that something that, the governor or, Mike Morath can unilaterally approve, or?
First one, we bring in about $350 million. I mean, $350,000,
We're not
excuse me,
the NFL.
$1,000 through athletic revenue.
Okay.
And of course, it cost us over $1 million to
Right,
run the
right.
program.
I knew it wasn't completely self-funding,
Yes,
but,
ma'am.
okay.
As far as can they change the budget, yes. There is a body called the Legislative Budget Board, and it's made up of the Speaker of the House, the Lieutenant Governor, and the Governor, and they have the ability to make adjustments to the budget if there is a funding shortfall. But they would have to do it.
Okay. And have we gotten any indication that they plan to meet?
They meet pretty regularly, and they're a big part of the budget process of the state. But remember, the legislature is going to go into session in January, and typically one of the first things they do is the state budget typically underfunds Medicare cost or Medicaid cost in the state every year, and so they typically go in, and usually we have additional revenue, and they take that and they quickly pass resolutions to continue to fund that for the rest of the year. They could do the opposite very quickly too. So I don't think the Legislative Budget Board will need to meet because we'll only be halfway through the year. So I think it's more likely that they'll wait to the legislature and wait and see what the forecast is from the comptroller once they start the legislative session. That should come out in December.
Okay, so like until December, we're probably like more or less okay. Okay.
Yes.
So I think like my push is that our June 25th meeting is not just like, oh, here's the thing and let's approve that, but like, I understand that we can't dig in, but honestly, I would like to get into the weeds a little bit of some of the like COVID-specific funding that is being written into the budget. You know, what are we earmarking for these expected expenditures, like buying devices to do remote learning, you know, our personal protective equipment and all of those kinds of things. I think I'd like to see a zoom in on that particular part of it.
As far as the devices, right now there's really nothing in the budget other than normal funding that would come out. But remember, we took funds and we bought about 2,000 devices, a little over 2,000 devices that we have that we can support the distance learning with right away. Of course, the hard part for us, and we're looking into that, is the connectivity. And that becomes the hard part. So we're looking into some hotspots, but they are just extremely expensive to operate.
Yeah.
I think, though, in order for us to better prepare, we really do need to know the weeds that you would like. So I need, keep going. Okay. Yeah, because I don't see the weeds yet, so keep going to tell me what you mean by that and what you would want, unless
Yeah.
Bill already has the grasp, because I don't have any.
No, I don't expect to see that today, but.
No, but for the future,
yes.
because I don't see the weeds that you're talking, and I'm just
Yeah.
using that term, you know. as-
Right. So I think what I would like to see is like, how much money are we putting aside? Like, how do we expect to spend the technology budget that is it just business as usual, or have we like reallocated some of those funds for the pressing needs that we have?
Yeah. And I think Bill can actually talk about that right now, because there isn't anything, you know, extra, but.
We have not earmarked anything. We did not cut, if you remember, we did not cut the custodial budget. We did not cut the fine arts budget. We did not cut the athletic budget because we knew those programs are going to have some additional expenses. But other than that, there's really no earmark in the budget currently as it is. I mean, because we just don't have the revenue to go there. If we want to do something, then it's pretty much going to be a fund balance driven thing.
And that's where we would need for you or anybody to tell us, hey, Dr. Ball, we really want to go in this different direction, because we're not going in a different direction from last year in regards to our budget.
I think that worries me quite a bit, to be honest, on that particular item. And I understand
On the
that-
technology part?
Mhm.
Right. So
Yeah.
the reason it doesn't worry me, and I don't know if it'll help you feel any better, when we put out the call for devices to be picked up, we still have plenty of
Okay.
devices that people didn't pick up, and that if we needed, I would guesstimate at least a good other 5,000. How many more do you think that we could have given out?
We have we had 1,000 additional devices ready to go that were not handed out.
Okay.
So, and then, like I said, on top of that, we bought over 2,000 to replace those, thinking we weren't going to get some back. Those we didn't put in carts, those we have with cases, and that my thought is if we go to the distance learning, we would hand those out because they have a case and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
What about if Wi-Fi hotspots were only in designated parts of the district? Would that help?
We are currently, and will have up, hopefully before school starts, we will have Wi-Fi in every elementary parking lot. We are doing that.
Ms. Eaton had a question.
One of the things, when you were asking about the concerns about the weeds, good point. Like, how much is it going to cost us to disinfect a bus? You know, how often are they going to do it? You know, are they going to disinfect them after they drop them off in the morning, and then, you know, get them ready to take them back? With the social distancing, you know, how's that going to affect us? How many kids are we going to be able to get on a bus? Are we going to have to change the times that kids are going to have to get up to get a bus?
Right. So you see, we won't have that information
Right,
by
right,
June
but
the
that's the kind of
25th.
stuff that, when I think about what she's addressing, I think about that. You know, Renee mentioned, are they going to eat in their classrooms, or are they going to go to the dining area to eat? Do we need to hire more custodians because we have increased needs for keeping the areas clean, the locker rooms and stuff? I mean, right now, even though they open the gyms, they won't let people even use the locker rooms because they don't have the personnel to go in there and clean them up all day long, you know? So, you know, we got basketball, we got football, track, you know, and then, you know, my concern about the masks with the little kids, you know, I mean, that's an additional task on a teacher to have to get a 4 or 5-year-old, a 6-year-old to keep a mask on all day.
Or even a
you know.
teenager.
Well, yeah, them too, you know, because they got to be fancy with it. And then if they get a cold, you know, with the temperature thing, is it a regular cold or is it possibly COVID? What are we going to do? Are we going to be doing testing at the school? Are we going to have a place we can send them to? If so, who's taking them there?
Right.
Who's paying for it? You know? And
Right.
so it's a lot. And I think we discussed about the machine,
Yes.
you know, for the temperature. Who's going to be doing that? You know, we cut nurses. You know, so who's going to be taking the temperature?
Right. I guess what I don't want to mix up is what I could see as two different things. Is what you're asking is, Dr. Ball, we want to see already the procedures as to how the schools will operate
No.
versus the budget and strict within our budget, because our goal is to function within the budget
Yes,
that we are
absolutely.
proposing and stay within, where it's not a balanced budget, but to stay within those means, knowing that if we ever needed to come to the board and ask for money from the fund balance for an emergency or something drastic happens, yes, we would do that. But our goal is to stay within the means that we currently have.
So then the budget that we currently are trying to work within, have we figured in the increased cost of sanitizing the
No,
buses
but-
and stuff?
So that's why Mr. Atkins did not cut those specific budgets. Everybody else's budgets were cut, but not the budgets that we knew they were going to need all their money to be able to do those things.
So just to clarify, the budget you've built takes into consideration all of the additional expenses related to what Ms. Eden is saying. Is that right?
Yes and no. I mean, it doesn't, using the bus, for example, okay? So let's say we decide to stagger the start times because the state says we can stagger the start times, and we decide to provide 3 different time periods in the bus. no, it wouldn't allow for enough fuel for that. So then we would have to make an amendment and come to the.
But you built the budget with enough inputs to operate, and then we have the ability to come back and adjust fire where necessary.
Absolutely.
Okay,
You would be getting it from the fund balance.
okay.
Currently, I mean, with the configuration of just the buses, I mean, you'd only be able to put one kid per seat.
Right,
And,
right,
If
but,
that's what we decided to do. That decision has not been made.
right.
no, I'm talking about it with the current,
And
what is
keep
it,
in mind.
6 feet apart
Right, and
rule.
all of those are recommendations. I'm not saying that I'm not going to follow those recommendations, but those are all recommendations and not mandates that we have to do.
Okay. But this just, I'm just trying to let you know.
Great
what we
questions.
rolling around up here.
Absolutely, great questions, great questions.
Just one other question, and this is to Mr. Rodriguez. So your questions on getting into the details of the budget, is that because you're trying to solve for the perceived technology gap we may have? Is that part of it?
I think Dr. Ball answered my question a little bit in that, like, okay, we're gonna work with what we have and make adjustments in there. So if that means we're gonna, like, after the fact, say, well, we had planned to use this money for this, but now we're seeing that the need is to buy disinfectant or whatever, then we'll, find it somewhere. We might not buy new football helmets, I don't know. I mean.
The thing that I guess, and I'm just sharing with you, the reason that I maybe as not as stressed as worried is I know that this board is committed to doing the right things for kids 100% of the time, every single day. And if I needed to have a special board meeting and say, you know what? 80% of our kids aren't coming back and they all want to do online. So I need to quickly get out there and buy another 1,000 iPads, whatever the case may be, Chromebooks or whatever. I know we'd meet, we do it, and get it from fund balance. But at the same time, I know we recently ordered a whole bunch of them to help us with this situation. Excuse me? Yes, ma'am.
So another quick question.
Please.
To your
Yes.
point, because I'm really surprised that we haven't had even more requests for technology, right? Because we've seen the digital divide be a lot greater in some communities. I guess, do we have aside from our experience in handing out these Chromebooks, do we have any other data to figure out what the addressable universe is of people that we possibly haven't touched, including those households with multiple children who might need that?
Yep. So today, our survey went out.
Okay.
So today, our survey went out to parents and to staff. I know that I have 2 staff members here, but I nod ahead. Did any of y'all check your email today? You did? You didn't get it? Oh, you didn't check your email. That's okay. You're on base. Okay. Okay, so it went out today. So we'll have information from our teachers as to who feels, one example of the question is who feels comfortable being the online teacher? Do you feel comfortable with providing instruction online? And then the questions are from the parents, and I'll attach the survey to the Friday notes so everybody can see it. And it asks several questions, even as, do you plan to send your child back? Would you like to send your child back in a regular setting? Would you like to do some type of hybrid? Would you like to only do online? So we'll have that information. But these are great questions. These are very valuable to us. So I want to hear a little bit more if there is more things that you would like for us to be prepared for on the 25th, or not even wait till the 25th. Provide you more information now.
I just have one last thing. Oh, I'm sorry. No, just one last thing. To your point about coming back for a special meeting and all that, I mean, I agree with it completely. I think we all just want to make sure that we come out the gate as prepared as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So any information that you have that we can synthesize to understand what the landscape could look like, and then we get prepped for it before every other district realizes that they might have a gap as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes a big market, bottleneck, just let us know.
Sure.
So, I don't want to wait until the last moment
Right.
to address those things, and I know you guys don't want to either.
Right. And keep in mind, one of the great things that the board did 3 months ago is you did that resolution that authorized me to do that. So we were able to do that right away. But I can tell you that on the curriculum side, I do feel that we'll be ready to start off right off the gate. That, the curriculum department is providing training. They have plans in place for the new teachers, for the seasoned teachers, so I do believe that we'll be ready.
I think the only other thing I'd like to see is when the guidance from TEA comes out, I'd love to see that.
Sure.
So,
And Tuesday, as soon as he posts something, I will gladly share it.
Thank you.
Ms. Canoyer.
Thank you. I just have a couple of things that I wanted to say. One, in terms of Mr. Diaz's question about devices that would be needed, I think that one reason we did not have the strong demand for devices, primarily from elementary students, is that we were not doing the same type of virtual instruction that high school students were getting through the online programs that they were accessing. So I think we definitely will see a stronger demand from elementary and middle school students. So the survey will show us, I know. The other thing I want to make sure that we do is that we say thank you to the City of San Antonio for the partnership that we're going to be entering into in terms of their providing internet access in some of our neighborhoods. I don't know if you guys saw that on the news or not, but some of them are in Judson ISD where we have students with high need, and they are providing internet access to all the homes in certain neighborhoods, and that's part of our district that has that. So I want to thank you, San Antonio, for doing that and partnering with us and seeing the need that's there. And I also want to say thank you to all my fellow board members for your interest, and especially Dr. Ball and your staff. I have no doubt that you'll keep the safety of our students foremost. This is going to be a whole new world. To truly virtually instruct students online is a completely different enterprise. It's a completely different way of thinking for teachers and for students and family members. This pandemic has just kind of turned us upside down, and we are working as hard as we can to make sure that we have put in place as much as we know that's coming down the line. I know that as soon as things come out, you'll be on top of it, and I appreciate your thoughtfulness and attention to all of it.
I also would like to piggyback Ms. Manoya and say thank you to our teachers, because, I mean, you went out. Sorry, went on spring break and never came back, and so we know and recognize that, it has been a whirlwind, but we've had teachers that stepped up and, they hit it hard, and the students appreciated it, as well as those teachers that were having a few issues. We had people that were able to assist them. So maybe not maybe, but when we come back, even at the elementary school, maybe half the day they do virtual, so that the kids are used to it, because everybody heard the warnings about the possibility of this coming back in the fall when the flu hits. And so we really don't know from that perspective what to expect. So just in case, let's have our students used to maybe in the morning, doing your tablet, and then afternoon, whatever the teacher wants to do. I don't want to tell nobody how to teach. Please don't get that wrong. I'm just saying, so that they're used to it. And then that'll help the parents a lot.
Any other discussion? Dr. Ball, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Mr. Atkins, was there anything else that you were going to share or any?
No, ma'am, just if we had to give every student a device, we would probably be 2,000 or 3,000 short. We would tear every card apart. Some of them would be old, but we could probably get close.
Okay, thank you. I think my main concern is just if if we have to shut down again. Like, it's not, it's on, sorry, it's just not close enough. I think it's literally just not for the hybrid model or whatever we decide to do, but, you know, if there's a second wave in December and we have to do fully online again, you know.
If the board would allow me to say something, there is a man in the back, Mike Davis, if he would stand. That man was instrumental in the summer. I could not have done what we did. He is amazing, amazing. He never took a day off during COVID. He just worked putting laptops, iPads, Chromebooks, I mean, just truly getting everything, you know, from giving them out to receiving them. This man answers all my emails at any time, 10 o'clock. You know, he's amazing, amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. So, yep.
And I want to also say thank you to Mr. Atkins for preparing this budget for us, and with all the questions that we have and all the unknowns still. But thank you, Mr. Atkins. I know you work hard. I called him a couple times today just to ask more questions about, you know, what is it gonna look like? Okay, I know. Yeah. And we have no idea what the first day of school is gonna look like, because there's gonna be so many parents that are not gonna want their kids to come back. Well, you said they're done with this teaching thing. All right, let's move on. Item 7C is the district survey results. Dr. Paul?
Yes, about 2 Fridays ago, I sent this information out in the Friday notes, and wanted to give you some highlights on this. And I'll just stand over there so I can better see everybody. If you're okay with that. So TASB always does our survey, and usually the lady from TASB comes out and presents this, but they're not allowed to travel right now. They're not allowed to travel, so I said, that's okay, I can do it, I can handle this. So this is the second year that we did our survey. It actually went out the same week that COVID happened. So it was interesting. So I was really disappointed that our numbers were lower, and the reason that they were lower is they would not accept all our paper copies. So the employees always have the opportunity to do this online or to submit a paper copy, but because they, like many places, didn't want to handle things that could be contaminated, they did not want to accept the paper copy. So I completely understand that. So we had about 2,300 employees responded. It was a 70% participation rate, which is below from last year, because last year we were in the 80s. But I really do think that if it wouldn't have been for COVID, we would have had a higher response, or at least the same response. So here it shares the different categories of individuals that took it. Of course, teachers always being the biggest category, because that is the biggest category of individuals that we employ are our teachers. But you'll notice there that everybody had the opportunity, from clerical staff, instructional aides, everybody had that opportunity. Then here we also have some information in regards to the time that the employee has spent at Judson, how many years they've been working within our district. Then the work location, again, elementary. We have more elementaries than anything else, so of course that's the biggest percent. And then some of the questions that we ask, we ask about compensation, respectful treatment, is the work meaningful that you do? Same exact questions as last year, because we also always like to see, are we making improvement? Are we doing better things? So the relationship with co-workers went up 5 points. Work that is meaningful to them also went up 5 points. The scale is strongly agree, disagree, and strongly disagree. And the back of what is attached to board book is the exact survey. So if anybody wanted to see the survey, you could see it. 98% say they like the work that they do and the work is done meaningful. 77% would recommend the district to a friend. Always want that to be higher, so working on that. But nice to see that 98% like the work that they do, so that is very important. Would you recommend our district? It did go up 6 points, so we're making some progress. Working conditions, 88% feel secure in employment with the district. 73% say the workload is appropriate for the position and they have the equipment and tools and supplies that they need. And that went up 11 points, that they feel secure in the employment with the district. So that's a good thing. 95% like the people. 88% can depend on coworkers or team works well together. 88% allowed to make decisions within the scope of the authority. 77% receive useful feedback on job performance. So 5-point increase, their supervisor sets clear goals and objectives, provides support needed with the problem on the job, and makes timely decisions. And please keep in mind that the principals get the data specifically for their campus also. So that's very important for them to see. 91% said the superintendent cares about students. 69% said that they feel comfortable approaching the superintendent with questions or concerns, so I will certainly be working on that. Obviously, there's still individuals that don't feel comfortable approaching me. I'll ask Ms. McKinney to give me some pointers on why they don't. But I went up. At least I went up. I went up 5 points. Superintendent explains reasons behind changes. 6 points, superintendent holds employees to high expectations. I always make sure that I put myself out there because I know the principals take this information very, very personally and they take it to heart. So I always wanted to make sure that I was out there too so principals would see that I'm in the spotlight too. 86% leave time provided is adequate. 38% believe pay is competitive in the area. So pay is something that we continuously, have to work on. 8 points we went up. Pay is fair for the work that is done. 94% district shares important news and events. 79% employees have a way to express their concerns. So here are some other areas where we went up. 12 points is the largest one. Employees have a way to express concerns to leaders. So that's a great thing. I think even if they're not expressing it directly to me, as long as they're telling their leader, that's great. So very happy to see that. I want people in our system to feel that they can give feedback, they can share their concerns, they can share information, and there'll be no fear of retaliation. So,
Dr. Ball, do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
feel that the ESAC committee is probably one of the reasons why the points went up for communications?
I do because they're a great group and they don't hold back. So I do think that has something to do with it. And they're always willing to hear from their campus or department and then bring it back to me. So I do think that could be part of it. 82% trust leadership to act in the best interest of students. 72% believe leaders value employees of Judson ISD. So we've gone up. So I'm proud of the district leadership. It says 10 points, trust leadership to act in the best interest of the students. 8 points, believe leaders are honest and trustworthy. And 10 points, believe leaders value employees of Judson ISD. So truly happy to see these increases because this is something that we worked on, really worked on. And not just me, the entire leadership team worked on building the trust, building that honesty, and making sure that everybody does feel valued. 89% said that the principal treats them with respect. 77% campus is clean and properly maintained. 5 points went up to get the information needed from the campus leader, so that's good. That means our communication is improving. 91% said that they have the opportunity to collaborate, so that's important. 56% said that they're satisfied with the resources for teachers with special needs, so that's something that we're certainly going to strive to get better on and work on that and make sure that the teachers have what they need. 5-point increase when it says satisfied with the resources for teachers with special needs, special population. So though we're at 56%, it was an increase, but we still want to get much better in that area. Then this one has to do with our instructional decisions, asking if individuals feel that our instructional decisions are data-driven. Student discipline, this is always an area where there's concerns. 69% said the principal provides leadership and behavioral standards. 51% the code of conduct consistently is fairly enforced. This one to me, I always kind of cringe at this one because it is a little bit difficult. It is, when it comes to student discipline, it isn't as black and white as people would want it to be. Depending on a child's needs, depending if they're in a special program, there's just so many factors that go into that it is not always as black and white as people would like for that to be. The customer service from central office, that's always very important to us. So 96% of the staff is courteous and respectful. Policies, forms, and info are easy to access, so that's gone up to 86, so happy to hear that. Technology, 94% says 94% of the staff is knowledgeable and helpful. 80% say they get trained and technical support to use available software and equipment. Special education also went up. So those were the areas like special ed, technology, central office, bilingual. Those are some of the key departments that we ask questions about. Guidance and counseling, that one also being such a critical area, the social emotional being such a critical area that we want to make sure that we always gather data from that area. Transportation, a service that's used by many. So here we see that we have some work to do on the bus routes to make sure that they're on schedule. So working on that. Child nutrition has gone up, so very happy to see that work being done. And that was just a glimpse. Everybody does have the survey. It's also posted on Board Book, so everybody can see the results and see the questions. But our goal is to continue to do the survey at the exact same time with the exact same questions so we can continue to compare apples to apples and make sure that we're really striving to always be in the high 90s.
Dr. Ball, do you have the survey from the previous administration?
Ma'am, I was told that there wasn't one before I got here, unless you know of one.
I'm just asking.
Yeah,
I thought it was done every year. Okay, I wanted to make a comparison, but
Okay.
this was a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7D, update on board advisory committees. We haven't had any. We've had our budget meetings with Mr. Atkins, but other than that, we haven't had any. The board trainings, item E. Would anyone like to speak to any of the trainings that they've had? We have been offered trainings by TASB and Region 20. Would anybody like to say anything about our trainings? We've done them, we still got some to do.
We all had 3 separate trainings that board members were required to participate in. One on House Bill 5166, an update on accountability and changes therefore. We had a very informative one on human trafficking. And then we also had one on cybersecurity, which lots of people should take because I see constantly things that people are doing online that probably open them up to some negative consequences in terms of cybersecurity. So I'm through with all of mine. Yay.
Yeah, well, good. I still have the Senate Bill 1566 to do. But, you know, Dr. Ball, after doing some of these trainings, it seems like that there are a lot of our parents that could also benefit. And I'm just wondering if it could be watered down in such a way that teachers could take it, parents could take it. Well, teachers probably already do. But like if a PTA or a PTO could arrange for, because we did it by Zoom, and, you know, if they could do it that, it just seems like with all the information that we learned in these trainings, and especially the human trafficking, it would be wonderful for parents to be able to take it. One of the things that came out of that training was that a hotspot is right in our area, I-10. And we've got, you know, that's part of our area. I don't know if it is exactly there where, you know, Judson ISD, but it's close enough to I-10 that, you know, I just think that it would be beneficial, you know, if parents were able to take it and if we could offer it. I don't know how it could be done, but.
I will definitely look at that, because every
you
time,
mind?
no, because I don't mind at all. Every time I hear about one of our children missing or a runaway, this is what I think.
Sure.
So I will definitely see if, well, we can create our own or borrow or something.
Right.
And I think also the cybersecurity, and I haven't taken the human trafficking course through the context of being a school board member, but as a juvenile attorney and as a child welfare attorney, I also have to take those to keep my lawyer license.
Yeah.
And there is a very, it intersects often, these predators, you know, often are, you know, lure people through the internet, you know, to meet them at locations on I-10, the truck stops. You know, I've defended kids that have been caught up, you know, in that. And so there's a lot of overlap in these topical areas that I think parents would be, you know, shocked to know how easy it is for a predator to start communicating with their child over the internet.
So many of our kids have cell phones.
Yes.
But not a lot of parents are checking to see what's on that phone and what they're doing. So, you know, it was a lot of eye-opening information.
I think it was especially enlightening for me to see how many apps that can be put on a phone or a device that have in-app messaging between people who are there. And that is a very insidious way for predators to make contact with vulnerable students. And parents may not understand or know. And so just the fact of raising awareness that this is something to check on, and a lot of apps have that feature where the messages disappear. And so it's so important to have that line of communication. So raising awareness for our parents, maybe this is something that could happen through guidance and counseling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe.
I
Ms.
know
King,
the-
did you want to say, oh, Ms.
Well,
Eaton?
I was just going to share that the police, they also offer classes on, I know when I was the president of the HOA in Dover, when we would have our HOA meetings, we would invite them and they would come, and that's one of the things they focused on was human trafficking. And at that particular time, the internet was really getting hot and heavy like that. And so they came and offered us 2 classes, and they were free, and they were very good, very good. Or like something as simple as you shared about that app that they came up with to make yourself old, and now
Yes.
everybody that did that is
Right.
in a whole nother
But
country.
it was, it was another
The
gateway.
Russians have
Yeah.
all that.
Harvesting, yes. Pinterest. I couldn't believe it, Pinterest.
Because you can message them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be great, yeah, if there was some kind of community training for parents, just to bring awareness, though, because things are just changing so much with the apps and social media, and some parents just don't know.
Right.
And so it would be great to see some type of training through guidance and counseling.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll look into that,
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Ball? Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll go into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, discuss personnel report and updates, including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments. And item B, pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with the board's counsel concerning district, employee, and/or student expression regarding social justice issue. The time now is 7:32. We're going into closed session.
Are we going to stay in here? Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'm going to post this tonight. Did you? I was just going to put the link.
That's not the answer.
But that is what it's
It's not in depth enough. It's not in depth enough. But it's just like I said, the same thing that we've done in education. We've done to police, making them responsible for all these areas of, mental health, child welfare, all that, and so they're happy to defund schools, though. That's not a problem.
I haven't even been on it, so I
Go look at my page.
Yeah. We are now returning into open session. The time is 8:47 PM. Oh. Okay. We have returned to open session. The time is 8:47 PM. Consider and take possible action regarding items discussed in closed session. Item A, consider and take possible action regarding the personnel report, including new hires, resignations, and administrative appointments. Is there a motion?
Approve as directed in closed session.
I second that motion.
Motion has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say, oh, excuse me, need to do a roll call. I guess we need to do a roll call because of. Yes. Ms. King?
Shatanya King, present.
Aye.
Aye. I'm sorry.
Ms. Eaton?
Deborah Eaton, aye.
Ms. Perez?
Lynette Perez, aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Suzanne Canoyer, aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Jennifer Rodriguez, aye.
Mr. Diaz?
Rafael Diaz, aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. That motion passes unanimously. Items 9B, consider and take action regarding district employee and/or student expression regarding social justice issues. Is there a motion?
I move that Ms. Pichelle, Ms. Perez, and Mrs. Rodriguez work together to create a resolution for presentation at Tuesday's meeting regarding social justice issues, including support for our students of color.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded. We now move to a vote. Mr. Diaz?
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez?
Aye.
Ms. Canoyer?
Aye.
Ms. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Eaton?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. Motion passes unanimously. We will move on to item 9C, nominations for the Judson ISD Board Leadership President, Vice President, and Secretary. Yes, ma'am, item 4. Nominations are now in order for the office of President.
I move to appoint Renee Pichelle as our president.
I second that.
Are there any further nominations for the office of President?
Did I do it wrong?
If there are no more than one nomination for the office of President, we'll take this to a vote. Has a motion been made? I'm sorry.
Yes, I made it.
And seconded. Let's take it to a vote. We'll start with Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Ms. Canoyer.
Aye.
Ms. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Eaton.
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Ms. Pichelle, do I vote? Aye. All in favor of the president, for Renee Pichelle for president, then the vote has passed unanimously. We will move on to nominations are now in order for the office of the vice president. Are there nominations for the office of vice president?
I move to nominate Suzanne Canoyer as our vice president.
I second that motion. Are there any further nominations for vice president? If there are no further nominations, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Aye.
Ms. Canoyer.
Aye.
Ms. Perez.
Aye.
Ms. Eaton.
Aye.
Ms. King.
Aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. Vote passes unanimously. Nominations are now in order for the office of secretary. Are there nominations for the office of secretary? I would like to nominate Ms. Lynette Perez for the office of secretary.
I second that nomination.
Are there any further nominations for the office of secretary? If there are no other nominations, these nominations are closed. We'll take a vote. Mr. Diaz.
Aye.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Aye. Oh, sorry.
Ms. Canoyer.
Aye.
Ms. Perez?
Aye.
Ms. Eaton?
Aye.
Ms. King?
Aye.
Renee Pichelle, aye. Nominations are closed now, so let me please read the results. For the office of President, Renee Pichelle is nominated for the office of President. For the office of Vice President, Suzanne Canoyer is nominated for the office of Vice President. For the office of Secretary, Lynette Perez is nominated for the office of Secretary. And there are no further, if there are no further discussions, this meeting is adjourned at